Alaska. Why did Putin ask to meet Trump in it of all places? Is it a friendly summit or a theatre-scale message with history as its prop? Alaska wasn't chosen by accident. It's a symbolic stage, a place Russia once sold, and a place that carries meaning in any US-Russia handshake. But this isn't just about symbolism. While leaders plan to sit at a table, the ground has been moving fast. In the last 48 hours, we've seen a major Russian armoured thrust. Tanks and mechanised forces pushing deep where fighting has been quieter. And Kiev answering with precision strikes that even reached important sites inside Russia. These are not small skirmishes, they're a message from both sides about how far they're willing to push. At the same time, Moscow's own military leadership is under strain. Senior commanders have been dismissed amid accusations of fake frontline reports and internal investigations. That turmoil inside the Kremlin and the army may explain part of the sudden escalation on the battlefield. And behind the headlines, diplomats and intelligence reports hint the Kremlin has a negotiating posture. Demands for territorial concessions and a frozen frontline are reportedly on the table, terms that Kiev and its partners publicly reject as unacceptable. That's why an Alaska meeting could be less about peace and more about pressure, optics, and redrawing the political map. In the next 10 minutes, I'll break all this down. The why of Alaska, the real scale of the recent attacks, the inside Russia shakeups, and what each move means for Ukraine, NATO, and the world. Before we dive into this breaking story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Let's start. Alaska is more than convenient geography. It's land Russia once owned, sold to the US in 1867, so holding talks there sends a strong symbolic message about history, power, and who gets to write the map. In short, the stage itself is part of the message. So why Alaska? Two reasons matter for Moscow. One, proximity and symbolic value. It reminds people of lost imperial territory and makes for powerful optics. Two, it lets Russia frame the talks as a historic negotiation rather than a simple ceasefire conversation. By meeting on ground that once belonged to Russia, Putin can push narratives about historical claims and legitimacy. Western analysts are worried this could normalise the idea that borders can be rearranged by great power deals. Now let's switch to the battlefield. What actually changed overnight? In the past 24 to 48 hours, there were two linked developments: deep Ukrainian strikes inside Russia and a major Russian ground redeployment in southern eastern Ukraine. Ukraine's intelligence and local governors say drones hit industrial and defense plants well inside Russian regions. One widely reported target was the Arzamas instrument-making plant in Nizhny Novgorod, which makes navigation and guidance components for missiles and other systems. Those strikes are not symbolic alone. They affect production and logistics that feed frontline operations. At the same time, Russian forces launched a very large wave of Shahed-type attack drones in the hours around those strikes. Ukrainian air defense reports put the number at about 71 drones launched in one operation. Ukraine says many were intercepted, but a dozen or so reached their targets and caused damage. That kind of mass drone volley is intended to overwhelm defences and communicate. We can strike deep and we can hit multiple targets. On the ground in southern Ukraine, Russian units have been moving sizable quantities of tanks, armoured vehicles and personnel toward the Orikhiv Melitopol axis in Zaporizhia Oblast. Intelligence summaries and independent analysts report increased Russian activity there, new formations, supply lines being built, and attacks intended to secure key approaches toward Melitopol and the Sea of Azov. In plain terms, Moscow is showing it can mobilize a heavy conventional push while also conducting long-range strikes. That combination changes pressure points for Kiev and its partners. Why does Russia open this second simultaneous pressure front? Think of it as a bargaining posture with teeth. On one hand, they strike economic and military infrastructure inside Russia to degrade Ukraine's enemy support and raise political stakes. On the other hand, they move armour and men in Ukraine to threaten tangible territorial gains. The military moves strengthen Russia's negotiating position ahead of any diplomatic talks because they change the facts on the ground and the cost of resisting. Observers say this is less about immediate conquest than about creating leverage. Inside Moscow, the situation isn't tidy. There are reports of internal divisions at the Kremlin. Some senior aides are reportedly pushing for negotiations and even internal reforms, while hardliners still drive the military agenda. Dmitry Kozak, a longtime Putin aide, has been named in recent reporting as one of the voices urging an end to the fighting and proposing negotiations. Those leaks matter because they show that even within Putin's inner circle, there are debates about strategy and costs. If parts of the Kremlin favour a deal, that could explain why Russia would both escalate and open a parallel diplomatic channel, stronger bargaining while signalling readiness to talk. There's also evidence of accountability problems in Russia's military command. Last year, a senior commander, Colonel General Gennady Anashkin, was removed amid accusations that his subordinates passed up false or inflated battlefield reports. Dismissals and investigations like that point to mistrust inside the command chain. When leaders get fake success reports, real strategy and logistics suffer. That internal friction can produce sudden changes in tactics and leadership, and that can contribute to the unpredictable surges we're seeing now. Put all that together and you get the mix we're watching. Dramatic signals on both the diplomatic stage, Alaska and leaked negotiation demands, and the battlefield, deep strikes, mass drone volleys and armour pushes. Each move is designed to influence negotiations. Russia's possible list of demands, territorial concessions, neutralisation of Ukraine, a freeze on NATO expansion, would be unacceptable to Kyiv and many Western capitals. But the Kremlin can still use those demands as a starting point for bargaining. The risk is a deal done without Ukraine's meaningful consent, which would be a political defeat for Kyiv and a blow to Western unity. What does this mean for Ukraine and for viewers at home? First, Kyiv faces a hard choice: keep fighting to reclaim territory or accept a negotiated freeze that could lock in losses. Domestically, Ukraine's constitution and political realities make any territorial concession extremely difficult. Internationally, Europe and the US must decide whether to insist on Ukraine's full participation in peace talks or to let great power negotiations proceed. Second, the dual military diplomatic strategy makes the next days dangerous. Battlefield changes could force sudden diplomatic decisions or produce a new stalemate. Finally, what should we watch for in the next 72 hours? 3 things. 1. Whether the Alaska meeting happens as planned and whether Zelensky is included or excluded. 2. If the Russian armoured push near Orikhiv/Melitopol deepens into a confirmed breakthrough. And 3. Whether Ukraine continues to strike deep into Russia's industrial base. Each outcome will tell us whether we're sliding toward a negotiated freeze or toward a more dangerous, extended war. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really at stake, do me a favour. Hit like, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss my next update. I post daily news breakdowns. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Alaska meeting will produce a real deal, or is it just theatre and pressure? Drop your take in the comments. Short or long, I read them all and I'll pin the most insightful reply. Also, I linked every source and the full reading list in the description, so check those if you want the original reporting and documents. If you found this useful, share the video with someone who needs the context. Thanks, and see you in the next one.